What are the top 5 operational mistakes that people make when building their own firearms? We'll talk about that, your questions, and a whole lot more tonight on the Builders Tribe Tuesday Fireside Chat. Coming right up. Yo, what's up, folks? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Good to see you. It's another Tuesday night for the Fireside Chat, and we thank you for being with us, man. This is an awesome day. We are going to talk about a lot of stuff today, man. There's a lot going on. There's a lot in the news. There's a lot we're dealing with. All of the things that we deal with as builders, man. I'm excited because it's been a full day. I've spent most of the day getting ready for the show, and I'm excited. Do apologize for my tardiness. It was not through any control of my own, but it's not important what happened or what's going on because we are here. So since we are running behind, we're just going to go ahead and get started. Guys, if this is your first time here, we thank you for being with us because you could be anywhere other than here on a Tuesday night, and you're here with us after 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast. So thank you for being here. Next, if you have any questions for us, if this is your first time, you don't notice, but if you're in the chat, you can ask any questions you want. We have the usual suspects in there that are always here with the tribe. They can answer any question. But if you have a question for myself or anyone on screen tonight, we have Weapon XYZ with us. And anybody else that wants to jump in, I know Weapon XYZ is going to post the link in the comment section. So if you want to join us live, you can come and join us. But if you have a question for us on screen, please preface your question in the chat with 4 question marks and then your question. That way we know we can pull it aside and we can answer your question as soon as possible. So with that, we're going to introduce my dude, my partner and cohort in this, Mr. XYZ, Weapon XYZ. What's going on, my dude?
What up, y'all?
Where are you? There you are.
How's everybody doing tonight?
I don't know how they doing, but I was tired. It's been a long day.
Yeah, I feel that.
And let's see. I don't know why that keeps doing that, but since it's just the two of us, we're going to do it up close and personal like that. It's probably the first time I'm using this layout, but hey, we're here. So, how's the new job and everything going with you, Weapon?
Oh, still good, man.
Cool.
Yesterday was a crazy night. Didn't have enough staff. You know, the typical pretty much everywhere right now.
That sucks.
No place has enough employees.
Yeah. I see help wanted signs everywhere, but I don't want to fill none out. I like being my own boss. It's not always what it's cracked up to be, though. I will tell you that. Anyway, who we got in the tribe tonight? Who's in the chat?
Yeah. We got Darth Dav in the house.
As usual. What's up, Darth Dav?
We got Hawkeye in the house.
Hawkster. Word up. What's up, Hawkeye?
We got M. Adams.
What's up, Matt? Good to see you, man.
That's it tonight. Oh, really? Sailman's in the house.
Okay, all right, Sailman. Good to see you, man. All right, so we got a small crew tonight. That's okay because it is what it is. We thank you for being here. We know that there's several people that could not be with us tonight, so they're going to watch the replay. Our main man Nas Veritas and JM. He's always watching the replay. So, and there's several others. I'm sure H and Order catches the replay, and several others that may or may not be here. We definitely appreciate everyone that checks in. So, one of the things I wanted to make note of, there's been, of course, we're after June 1st. So now the pistol brace rule is in full effect. So if you didn't file the Form 1 to get your during the amnesty period to get your short barreled rifle tax stamp, then I hope you, in some way, shape, or form, discarded your pistol brace if you own one. I don't want to know if you own one. Not my business. But let's just say the numbers came in, and the number of people that actually filed Form 1s is less than 6% of the 40 plus million that are out there. So either there's a lot of felons out there or a lot of boating accidents happened. So but it is what it is. So there's that, and then
Dog ate it.
Yeah, the dog ate it, and the trash. It went down the it got slipped off and went down the trash compactor, and I was taking it off and it slipped and it flew out the window into the driveway, and my wife ran over it in the car. All those good things.
It flew off. It landed in the middle of the range, and they said I couldn't go get it.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. But anyway, that's going on, and I'm sure some of you have some input on that. If you guys got input, please feel free. What's up, Mr. Vino? Mr. Vino said he's late, but he's here. Mr. Bernie is here. What's going on, dude? We definitely appreciate it. And guys, again, the link, if you want to join us, is in the chat section. I need to slow down. I need a drink. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So if you're just joining us, we're going to be talking about the top 5 operational mistakes. So again, welcome. It's Tuesday night, and we're here for another episode of the Builders Tribe Tuesday Fireside Chat. So top 5 operations mistakes. We're trying something new tonight. I don't have a choice but to try something new tonight because my file would not load up. So I won't be able to see you guys. So Weapon XYZ, you are in full control of the board, because once I start this, and just to let you know, guys, there are subtitles on this. Yeah. So hopefully the subtitles come out right. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. And let me share my screen. Share screen. Pistol base infringement. Yep. Someone says act accordingly. Yeah, exactly. I feel you on that one, dude. There was something else I wanted to say before I got started.
Oh, those are in the other safe.
There was something else I wanted to share. No, there was something wrong with the server. Retry. Okay. Is anybody getting that on it? Okay, there we go. I wasn't getting the chat in my other screen for some reason. All right, guys. So let's go ahead and get started. If I remember what I wanted to say, I will say it after we finish. But we're going to talk about the top 5 mistakes. And I kind of loosely put these in order of what I feel would be the most egregious mistakes. So it's going from least to most. So it's going to start at 5, and we're going to count down to 1, because some of these things, the gun will operate, but you don't want to operate in most of these, especially the last 2. You don't want to operate the last 2 at all. You want to absolutely get off the range and fix the problem. So Matt, you forgot it was Tuesday, dude. All right. All right, so here we go. No, damn it. I usually don't share my screen, so bear with me here. I normally have my slide deck uploaded, but because this one is intense with pictures, I wasn't able to load it up because it said my files it was too many files. I mean, 2 large files. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So the top 5 operational mistakes, we're going to start with what I consider to be the least of the 5 mistakes. And that's going to be the, okay, well, all right. So neglect to change the Gen 3 connector to the Gen 4 connector. And as you see, those are the part number is 336 on the Gen 3, and the part Gen 4 is 30274. So if you're using OEM parts, that is the OEM numbers that you can order. So if you're say like on Midway or someplace where they sell OEM parts, those are the part numbers that you want to look for. And every one of these, if it doesn't have the part number stamped on it, and I'll show you that in another slide or two. If it doesn't have the number stamped on it, it is not OEM, guys. So and girls. So you definitely want to make sure that that stamp, if you're going for an OEM part, definitely look for that stamp number, that part number. And some have asked the question, well, why is this a mistake? We use aftermarket parts all the time. Or if you buy a Gen 3 housing, it's going to come with the Gen 3 part number 336 in it. Why is it a mistake? And that's because the Gen 3 ejector, not the housing. You can use the housing. You can swap out the if you look on the screen, the circled part, that's the ejector. That can be taken out of the housing. If you look at both of the housings, because that's a Gen 4 housing on the right and a Gen 3 housing on the left, they look almost identical. And the only difference is the bottom part, which has two little legs or feet, if that's what you want to call them. And we've have other videos where it shows how to modify the Gen 4 to fit with the Gen 3 frame. So we're not going to get into that here. But that Gen 3 ejector causes casings to eject more at a 6 o'clock than a 4 or 4:30 trajectory or angle.
So I had a great euphemism for the way that these two parts are designed. How you've got the Gen 3 is that very thin, like I've referred to it as like a bayonet, like a mini bayonet, right? And then you've got the other one that's just wider. So as we know, based on how the mechanics of that works is, there's more surface area on the Gen 4 than the Gen 3, allowing it to be able to grab that casing and push it out better. I use to relate it to trying to flick a coin off of your palm. But you try to flick a coin off your palm with your pinky, you're not going to get a very good ejection or trajectory on it. Whereas if you flick it with your pointer finger, you're going to get far further ejection on it, a lot more power, a lot more connection. So I used to relate it to trying to flick a coin with your pinky versus trying to flick a coin with your pointer finger.
Yep. Hawkeye, you said it depends on which what OEM part you replace with aftermarket parts. We're just talking about the ejector right now, my dude. And yes, I absolutely do use aftermarket parts on some parts, but not the ejectors. I'm using OEM parts every time I'm going to go for the Gen 4 if I can find it. So yeah, absolutely, it does matter, which parts that you're trying to replace. So, but try to not use aftermarket parts, aftermarket ejectors, because sometimes they can cause jamming as well. If the angle on the aftermarket ejector is off just by a little bit, you could get jams, because you have that slide coming back and everything has to work perfectly. So if something's out of spec, we know this with other parts. If it's out of spec, sometimes it could cause a whole list of problems that we have to now troubleshoot to find out what it is. And using OEM ejectors,
what's the 30274 clone ejector that Rook Tactical sells? Who makes that again? Trying to remember.
I have no idea.
And to add to this aftermarket ejector, why I bring this one up is I did buy one. It works fantastic, but it did require modification in order for it to work the way it does. It required removal of material both from the top of the ejector pin, as well as material removed from the stem of the ejector pin in order for it to seat correctly.
Yeah, that's just, to me, that's just too much work if I don't have to do it. You know what I mean? And I understand the reason for doing it, but if you can find OEM guys, get the OEM, man.
Yep.
And right now, I know there was a time when we couldn't find Gen 4 ejectors or Gen 4 trigger housings at all. They were out of everything. We could find 3s, but we couldn't find 4s.
No, we couldn't. If I remember correctly, the full part number for both the Gen 4 housing and the Gen 4 ejector is 30275.
Yes,
correct?
That is correct.
Just the ejector pin is 30274.
And
just for anybody watching.
And don't pay attention. I had a little typo right underneath there. It says 3074. That's a typo. It should be 30274. And you are absolutely correct. If you are looking for the housing and the ejector as one, it is 30275. You are absolutely correct, dude. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah. No problem.
And just as a bonus tip, guys, Gen 5 ejectors will work.
Yep,
they will absolutely work. The Gen 5 housing will not work. If you look at the Gen 5 housing, you see a little spring inside there, whereas in the 4 and the 3, you don't see that spring. That's because it is designed to work with Gen 5 frames only and Gen 5 trigger bars only. So if you have a Gen 5 trigger bar and the Gen 5 housing, I believe it will work. I haven't tried it, but I have both in there. I might try it. But you can't use a Gen 5 housing with a Gen 3 or Gen 4 trigger bar.
Yeah, okay? Different mechanism inside.
It's same mechanism. It's just connected. It connects the trigger spring differently.
Yep.
So that trigger spring on the back on the cruciform is different. Actually, it's not really a cruciform in Gen 5. So it's a whole different thing. We're not going down that rabbit hole. We can do another video on the difference between the trigger bars, trigger housings, and all that. But guys, I want you to take a look at this. If you look closely, the Gen 3 on the left and the Gen 5 on the right look suspiciously identical. That angle is almost identical, and it can be confusing if you look at it from the wrong angle. But if you look at it from this angle, you see the difference. All right, so the Gen 3 is up top, and the Gen 4, and then the Gen 5. And you can see the Gen 4 is twisted a little bit. Okay, that's on purpose. That is not a defect. That is on purpose to help eject the casings in a different direction. They figured out that 336, that angle, was causing a lot of the,
stovepiping, failure to feeds, port ejection.
Yep, and we're going to talk more about the failure to feeds and failure to feed, failure to ejects in a little bit. But a lot of it has to do with that angle on the Gen 3. So guys, those are that, like I said, it will operate with any of these ejectors. These won't eject, but you get more problems with the 336 versus the Gen 4 and the Gen 5. So definitely that's number 5. That's the least of the issues. So moving on, and
yes,
as you
Matt,
see here,
it is Nomad Defense that makes the clone ejector.
Okay, cool. So guys, just realize if MGB said the ejector from a Gen 5 housing and put it in Gen 3 housing, the housing works, yes, but again, and this is Bob, MGB said take the ejector from the Gen 5 housing and put it in the Gen 3 housing. Absolutely, you can do it with the
Gen 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Some people prefer 4, some people prefer 5. I've always used 4, so that's probably what I'll just continue to use.
And I bought some Gen 5 housings because, and it came with the Gen 5 pin because I couldn't find any Gen 4. And I knew the Gen 5 ejector would work. So now I got 3 Gen 5 ejectors, and I think I'm going to figure out what I'm going to use them in. I think we can use them in the Lone Wolf, or I don't know, Hawkeye can help me out with that. But yeah, so as you see in the picture, it's just totally different. Even though it looks the same from the top, it's different from the side, and it causes to eject in a different pattern. So there's that. So next up, we got number 4, not doing a drop test. We've talked about drop tests probably till we're blue in the face.
I think we even covered this in our safety one too. It's so important.
We covered this twice. Covered it in the safety. There's a few things that overlap, guys, and the connector we're going to talk about, it was talked about in one of the other parts too. But it's important enough to talk about more than once, and the drop test is absolutely imperative, guys. So don't say, oh, I put it together. Well, I put 100 of these together, I don't need to do a drop test. You absolutely need to do a drop test, and we're going to talk about why. So here's your trigger housing, and on the trigger housing you have a shelf. Okay, so the shelf, that's where your cruciform fits. And again, we're not going to get into the specifics, but that's where the cruciform sits. And that shelf that you see there is the drop safety. Okay, so if it's not sitting up on that drop safety correctly, or if the cruciform isn't engaging with the firing pin lug, you're going to have problems. So you have to do that drop safety so you can, don't have drop safety malfunctions, hence negligent fires. Because if that safety, if any of the three safeties that are in a Glock are not positively acting correctly, it's going to cause a problem. But this drop safety, it could be so much as you're carrying it on your hip and you get, you run into a wall or you scrape up against a wall. If it's enough to jar that and to have that cruciform slip off that ledge, you're going to have a negligent discharge. So if you look here, we're going to talk about all the different ways. So most people don't want to do a drop test. All right. So do a drop test. Definitely do it before adding optics or any kind. Okay. And I'm missing a few slides here, but it's okay, guys. We're going to keep moving. So you want to say, how do I do a drop test? Okay. If I've got my gun together, I don't want to drop it to the floor. Obviously, you do not want to drop it to concrete. You want to get a stack of magazines. Okay, magazines, old phone books. If anybody still got phone books around, you could put a blanket over them, so or a blanket underneath them, so if it does bounce off the magazines, it doesn't go on hit the floor.
Rubberized
car mat, something, and you should drop it from at least 6 feet high. And if you look at the pictures here, it shows which angles you should drop from. You should drop it. It's kind of hard. If you look at these first two pictures, it's kind of hard to get it to drop right on the bottom of the magazine well. But if you can, definitely do that, or drop it the way. Now, guys, realize if you're dropping
at least the back and the front, if anything, at least the back and the front.
Well, you should do all these angles as best possible. So you see the one on the right, it's on the back. You see it on the front, and you see it on the top. Now, the top is the reason that you should definitely do this before you put any optics on the weapon, because now you're taking a chance at destroying your nice Swamp Fox that are on there. Again, if you're dropping it onto books, it shouldn't be a problem. But you have your front sight that's going to hit as well. Your rear sight may not hit if you see it's tucked underneath my Swamp Fox there. But on the front, if you hit that in the right way, especially with these Strike Industries iron sights, that iron sight might go flying. So absolutely do this before. Do a dry fit. Everybody should be doing a dry fit anyway. Everyone should be doing 100% dry fit. Make sure you're doing function checks and everything before you put sights on the weapon. All right. You shouldn't be putting live rounds in there. You should have, again, this is getting more into tools and other safety mistakes. You should have not snap caps. Well, you can have snap caps, but dummy rounds, so you can function test it. But absolutely do not put your sights on or any kind of optic before doing this. Bonus tip number 2: do it. Do after you dry fit and before you do your final paint. The last thing you want to do is do a nice Cerakote job or a gun coat job, and then you go, oh shoot, I forgot to do my drop test, and then you do the drop test and you chip the paint. I'm gonna tell you right now, that's gonna be heartbreaking. I've never done it, thank goodness, but hopefully if I follow my own rules, then I don't want to chip the paint before it's time. It's going to get chipped anyway. I mean, you see some of my paint on copperheads already chipped and faded because I run her like a rented mule. So but that's okay because I build them to function, to work, not to just sit in the safe. So anything you got on that, Mr. Weapon?
No, it's very important. I know it's, I know the butthole puckers up a little bit when you drop it. I mean, I get it. You spent all this time building it just to throw it on the ground. But it's got to be done.
Yeah.
You can control the situation though. I mean, like you said, we're not dropping it on concrete. You're not down in the basement tossing it on the ground. Find something that's going to absorb, not absorb the impact, but not a super hard callous surface that's going to scratch your finish or mar up your plastic, mag release or anything like that.
Right. Don't slam it down, guys. Just let it drop.
No, I'll drop. Hawkeye said drop test before you do all your custom paints and mods and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So anyway, I always do a dry fit, make sure everything's working, make sure it's functioning. Sometimes I've done some of the mods, but definitely before I do paint. So, and I'm not going to do it with the magwell on it. As you see, my magwell's on copperhead, but I'm going to do it before I add the magwell because that could shatter too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just a thin piece of polymer. You drop it the wrong way, it might go flying, and now you're out $20 for a magwell.
Yep.
If you're lucky.
Or if you have an aluminum magwell, you might not scratch the finish on it, but you might dent the aluminum.
Might dent it, absolutely.
I mean, it's just aluminum.
And once it's dented, it's done.
Yep. It's just
you can't straighten out aluminum.
No.
You might be able to finagle stainless steel, but you ain't gonna get aluminum back. It's gonna snap before it goes back to Dolph Dav, Rema paper will work as well. So if you got paper, anything that's not or anything that's porous, anything that's not really hard but not softy, you don't want to drop it onto a stack of sponges. We order a bunch of stuff. You don't want to drop it on you don't want to go gather up all the bubble wrap that you got from all the parts that you've ordered and drop it on that. Don't do that either.
All you Reddit folks, don't drop it on the mattresses you take pictures of your fucking builds on.
Oh Jesus, that is the worst, man. I'd rather you take pictures on a messy bench. And Hawkeye, yes, my bench was messy. I cleaned it off just for those pictures, dude. He's always joking me about I don't do no work. My bench is too clean. All right, so we're going to move on. I think we're going to move on. I think that was last. Yep. Number 3, not checking that the angle of the connector isn't too far out or not out far enough. Yeah, I think I said that right. But you'll get the picture in a minute. So here's our trigger housing, and that's with our connector in it. All right, so as you can see, none of this stuff is polished. I pulled it out of a box. I don't polish my stuff until I'm getting ready to put it on. So no jokes about my housing is filthy and it's brand new. It came out of a freaking bag, dude. Relax. All right, so what if it's not correct? What can it cause? It can cause a squirt gun trigger, which is a mushy field, and you can get a failure to reset. Just recently, who was it that just had that problem? It was either Matt or Mr. Mayan, I think it was one of those guys. Guys, my memory is all over the place. So if I called you and it wasn't you, it was the other one. Okay, so that was one of your problems. Okay, guys, I'm switching back and forth. So when I jump over here and I see the comments, I kind of get distracted. But anyway, so you get a mushy trigger. Okay, anytime someone goes onto the forum, and guys, definitely, if you are not a part of the forum, please go over to builderstribe.org and sign up. It's free. Join us over there. If you have questions, you're watching the replay and you have questions, you want to talk to us directly, guys, hit anybody up, hit the DMs. We answer all questions. So definitely go over to the Builders Tribe and join us over there. There's a plethora. I said it right. Plethora of information Hawkeye puts up all the time. He breaks down his custom builds. He shows how to do these things. And honestly, we can do more over there. We can show you more. We can show you more hands-on. We can show you step by step. So there are videos up over there as well as pictures. So definitely join us over there. So, but as I was saying, you get a squirt gun trigger and it just feels mushy and it's hard to reset. Okay. That's usually because your connector that you put in is out of spec in the way of the angle is off. Now, most of the OEM Glock connectors, they're pretty much dead on. You can put those in, keep going. But if you use an aftermarket like Ghost Inc. or NDZ or anybody else that carries, AIM surplus, any aftermarket, as long if it's not OEM, check your angle of your connector, because it might be like this. It might be out too far. When you put your connector in, it may be out too far. That's going to get you that's not going to get you a good result. That's going to get you a nice mushy feel. You might have failures to reset. I forget which one does which. If it's out too far, it may get one or the other. So it's not right. It should definitely not look that far out. Now, when you put and we're not going to talk about installing the trigger bar, but when you put your trigger bar on there, it's going to put too much pressure on it because it's out too far, and it's not going to function correctly. What's up? What you got, Hawk? Weapon, you about to say something?
Just agreeing with Hawkeye. So every trigger problem he's ever had has been the connector. At least 2 times now. Yeah, for me, two out of 3.
That connector is I mean, if it's not in there right, it's going to cause you problems. And the one thing you don't want to have a problem with is a gun that you may have to use to save your life. So make sure this is right, guys. That's why I said number 3, because it's higher up on the thing. You want this correct. Anything from here on, you want to have correct. You do not want to. I mean, yeah, you can get away without doing a drop test. You can absolutely do that. Do you want to? Not really. You don't want to, but you can, because if you don't have the right sear engagement and that thing drops, you got a problem. But this is going to cause a problem because it's going to keep you from either firing the first time or following up fire. It might, if you have a reset problem that's caused by one of these issues. Now, this second picture, the angle is not far enough out. Okay, it's too tucked in. If you see,
unless you're looking for a single shot.
Oh yeah, if you're looking for a single shotgun, then hey, you want to throw away, hey, go for it. But yeah, so this is in too far. So again, you're going to get one of these results when it's in too far like this. It's either going to be a squirt gun trigger mushy or failure to reset. Don't even bother to try and remember which is which, because I know if I put my connector in there, it's wrong and I'm going to have to fix it. And I'm going to show you guys real quick how to fix it after we see this next screen. So if you look here, now that's just right. That angle should be just right. And if you look, the connector just barely comes past the upper part of the housing, the polymer. I'll take it to the next screen so you can see it even closer. You see right here in the red circle where the connector comes just past the upper polymer part of the housing. That is a perfect angle that it should be at. And that's how you judge it. If you don't have that angle, if you're looking at one of these 3 angles, that's the one you want to look at. Okay. So if you have a problem, but that's the mistake people make because they don't know it's a problem. They just put it in and it's like that or that. And they figure, hey, well, it's in the right place, so it must be right. Yep. It's not always the case, man.
And, it's important to check it before you, assemble everything rather than having to do it afterwards and make adjustments, because it is a stamped part. It's, you could bend it too far. You can bend it too far back and snap it, or too many times back and forth, and you create pressure and tension, and next you've got a wobbly connector. It's not.
Yeah,
check it first.
Yep, absolutely, check it. And just like Matt just said, there's a way to fix it, and this is how you fix it. This is your bonus tip: use the trigger housing to fix it. You don't need any tools. All you have to do is take it out. Like I said, here's what it looks like when it's in correctly, right? Take it out, flip it over. It's going to look like that. Okay. So now if it's bent out too far, you want to push it one way. So this is what it looked like. Stand it up on its back. It'll look like this. So now if the angle is too far out, you want to push it to the right or turn it on its side and push down. Just do it 3 times. Okay. And then put it back in correctly and see it.
Yep.
Very lightly. Just keep doing it until it comes in. Now, if it goes too far or was in too far as it was, then you push the other way. You want to push it to the left to expand the angle. So you just keep doing that. You're not going to break it because you're not bending it like a freaking
small adjustments.
Small adjustments. You're not going to bend it like a paper clip, like you're trying to turn a paper clip around. No, don't do that.
You're not making a wish on the fucking wishbone on a turkey dinner.
No, you're not. So just do it like that, and you'll get it. It shouldn't have to be bent very much. Just like Hawkeye said, it's going to be pretty much like I said. It's going to most of the ones that come, the Ghost Ink ones I had, the Lone Wolf ones I've had, they've all been pretty much perfect out the box. So you're not going to come out unless you buying something that's.
I think the only one I've really had adjustments to was my. My Boogeyman Customs one.
Yeah, I don't want to bag on anybody. I could call a few, bargain basement companies that sell connectors. I don't want to bag on nobody. Just check before you actually use it, guys. It's just that simple. All right. So number 2, failure to clean the channel completely. Remove material. I asked Mr.
Wyatt do this.
Huh?
Wyatt do this.
Yeah, Wyatt do this. Yeah. Guys, we've all seen some of the pictures. I wanted Mr. Weapon was at work today, so he wasn't able to send me the pictures. But there's been some nasty channels out there.
At work, sleeping on the couch like a lazy bum. What's the difference? Same thing.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, I didn't work today.
You didn't work today?
I stayed on the couch like a lazy bum and watch movies.
While I was working my guts out. Okay, I see how you do me. Okay. All right, I see how you do me. But yeah, see, this is a channel. Someone hit me up in the DMs on the old forum, and this is the channel that he was trying to figure out what's the problem. Now, if you look in the background, guys, look in the background. There's a slide back there. Look at how dirty the slide is, and look how. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that. That's not what we're here for. This thing wouldn't function, all right? And it wasn't the dirt, because we know Glocks will run dirty and everything else. It takes a lot for a Glock not to run.
Why does it look like that thing was stored in a porta potty?
I said we're not going to talk about that. But look at the channel. How I mean, it's not smooth, it's not clean, it's not enough material removed from it. So he was having problems with his slide feeding and ejecting and jamming. All 3. He had all 3 problems, and it was because the channel wasn't done, and the recoil spring kept catching on the channel material that was going, because that channel material has to be absolutely perfect. And a lot of new builders fall into this because they don't see pictures like this that show them how a channel should look. All of these channels, the one on the left, you got a P940C, fit and finish rails. And then you see
I was actually looking for that picture. I made that one. I was looking for that picture to pop it up on screen.
The one on the left?
Yeah.
Some polishing still needed to be done, but it's smooth. It's ready to go. You can drop your recoil spring in there, and it's free play. You know what I mean? And once you put your slide on there and you rack it, you can feel the difference. If you have any type of resistance when you pull the slide or when you rack the slide, your channel needs more work. And, you know, again, we're not going to get into the details on how to smooth out a channel. But if you look at that picture on the left, the front locking block, it's in and it's absolutely parallel with the channel. And that's how it should look. It should be, the channel should be all the way back to where and smoothed out. It should feel like one piece. If you close your eyes, it should feel like one smooth piece all the way out to the front of the channel. So, and you know, these other pictures, you see that they are finished, and that one on the right, you're going to see a lot more of here in the next few months, hopefully. I don't know if you recognize that one weapon. Do you recognize the one on the right?
Of course I do.
All right.
I see the purple.
Yeah. All right. So this is my latest build, and I just did the frame is not finished. It's not polished. It's not painted. It's not anything. But I wanted to clear out the channel before painting. That way I don't have a two-tone on the inside. Okay. And that's what happens if you order a
already Cerakoted frame.
Yeah, Cerakoted frame, and now you have to
or dyed one,
cut your tab, or dyed one, or you have to cut your tabs, and then you have to do your channel. You're gonna have two tones because it doesn't, the dye or the paint doesn't seep that deep into it. Now, is anyone going to see it other than you? Nope, because I guarantee you, Copperhead is black on the inside, but it's green on the outside. It just is what it is because, you know, what you call it? Brad Gledhill did all the Cerakote work and then sent it to me. That way we didn't have to go through FFL. So this is how a channel should look. And that's a big mistake that people do. And that's the number two, because if your channel is not right, it will not function. It will not function right. I don't care what you do. If your channel is not,
your recoil spring will bind. I'm going to pop this up on screen here real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Hawkeye's last comment. He said some aftermarket. No, actually, sorry. There you go. Makes a difference on what RSA used to. So specifically on the last slide that Ram had up, the two frames on the right, which are SC frames, you don't necessarily have to take your channel down all the way to the bottom on those if you're using a single spring RSA. If you're using a G26 dual spring RSA, this, you know, the standard Gen 4 RSA, you do need to take it all the way down to the floor, or it will bind, it'll catch, you'll end up getting your slide stuck on. A myriad of different issues can come up. You know, can't rack it, you know, failure to reset, failure to feed, so on and so forth.
Cool.
But they do make single and dual for the G26s. I would just suggest anybody, if you're looking to reduce recoil or mitigate recoil, go with the dual spring on the G26. It's far superior to the single spring. That's all I got.
Yeah, I generally use OEM springs as well. Some people don't like them because they have the polymer. You know, they're made of polymer. That's okay. They snap. They're not expensive. I've had one snap on me. No big deal. Luckily, it didn't happen during fire. But you just buy another one, man. They're like $10, $15. And then, you know, if you use a stainless steel spring, now you have other noise that you're introducing into your weapon, because that
have
spring
to lubricate it even more.
Yep, that spring is going to move along that stainless steel rod, and it's just gonna make more noise than it's worth. So I'm just using the polymer Gen 3, and I'm thinking about when I redo Copperhead. Copperhead's going to get a redo probably next year. It's going to get a redo, but I'm thinking about going to a stainless steel rod at that time. But anyway, all right, we got it's 10:53.
Tungsten's a little bit lighter.
Tungsten's lighter, yep. So number one, guys, what do you think number one is? Let me see in the comments. What do you think number one operational issue is when building? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. What's the number one issue? What's the number one issue? It's real simple. It's real simple.
For some people, it's a blessing. For most people, it's a curse.
Yes, Copperhead's going to get a redo probably next year, dude. Got some other bills need to get done first. Just some parts.
Just some parts.
Yeah, not getting a total makeover. Just some of the parts are going to change on it. It's not going to get repainted. It's going to be the same color. Just you're going to have some other parts that are going to go on it. Pinholes is a good pinholes is a good guess, but nope, pinholes are not. They made the top 10, but they didn't make the top 5.
Although if you do have egged out pinholes, it could cause, I should say it could contribute to this issue.
It could, absolutely. Oh, shoot. Before we get to that, guys. Oh, man. Okay, keep giving me your answers, but I forgot one thing. I had another slide here. Let me get back to my screen here. All right, so the last thing on the channel is, and we're not going to talk a whole lot, but here's the bonus tip. Use some of these tools of, damn, I got all kinds of time. I was rushing doing this, guys. Use some of these or similar tools to properly excise the unneeded material from the channel. You can use Hoscos and Stumac fret cutters to kind of angle cut and get most of the material out of there, and then you use your various cutting tips. I didn't have a picture of the spade tip cutters, but you can do those and get a lot of the material out. If you have some of the small cutters, I know Hawkeye has some of those small cutters. The nips,
little nips.
Yeah, little nips.
Really well too.
My wife has some, but I wasn't able to get back there and get a picture of them in time to get this slide deck up. So I apologize.
You could also call them like a hobby wire cutter. Used for cutting hobby wire. Or
I'm gonna put this slide deck up in the forum too, in case anybody want to reference it later. I mean, we all here know that, but if you're just watching this and you are not a member over at the forum, go over to the forum and sign up. It's free, guys. To go over there, and you can get all of this information. It'll be posted up over there, and I may even post it in the community section of the Builders Tribe YouTube channel. So we'll go with that. So all right, so how many people guessed what was coming up next? Who's any guesses? We got one guess.
We have one guess.
Matt, the only one that's brave enough to guess. Man, y'all are wimps, man. All right, so check. The number one is checking that you have proper engagement, the connection between the trigger pin lug and the cruciform. That is the number one, because that can really hurt you. That can, oh my gosh, if you haven't checked to make sure your sear engagement is what some call it. And I looked for that term in the Glock book. That is nowhere in the Glock book. Mm-hmm. They don't refer to it as a sear. It's just a cruciform. All right. And if you don't make sure that's correct, guys, you can have a lot of problems. So in case you don't know what the engagement is, in case you're watching this for the first time and you're trying to find out what the heck we're talking about, if you don't know the terms, guys, if you look here, you have the firing pin. All right, so that's the firing pin on top, and then you have the firing pin lug, which is circled on the rear. Okay, that interacts with the cruciform of the trigger bar. All right, if you look on the back, it looks like a cross. That's why it's called the cruciform. All right, so and this is an OEM. You see that dot on there? That's an OEM, and we're not going to talk about it, but I only use OEM trigger bars. Some people will fight for aftermarket trigger bars, and if they work for you, great. I am not a gun snob. I am not a part snob. I know the chances of something going wrong when using OEM go way down. Okay, so if you're using OEM, the chances of that being the problem go way down. Not to say it won't be a problem or it can't be a problem. Your chances just go way down. And trust me, the first build I did, I used an aftermarket trigger bar, and I have not used one since, because that was the problem. And when I was just learning, I was a noob at one point. I asked what's going on. They said change the trigger bar. As soon as I changed the trigger bar, problem went away. So anyway, cruciform, And we'll do another video on how you can tell the different parts. I think we have a post in the forum that talks about aftermarket versus knockoff versus OEM. If we don't, I'm sure I have access to it because it was on the original forum, and I'm pretty sure I have access to it because I probably saved it. So when you connect those, and if you look here from the side, you see the what you call the duck's bill right below where the engagement is. So you have the cruciform, which is this back part or the top of the cross that engages with the firing pin lug. Okay. And the way it sits right now in that picture, and I'll go ahead and zoom in on it for you. It's at 100% engagement right now. Okay. You want at least 2/3 engagement. That means the connection between the cruciform and the trigger pin lug. Firing pin lug. I don't have water tonight. I'm thirsty.
I prefer 80% or higher, as close to 100 as I can get, but 80% or higher.
Yeah, it's you definitely want to have. Nas Veritas. What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. We're going to talk about that in a second. So, this can cause uncontrollable repeat fire and double fire. So if you pull the trigger once and it fires more than once, which is why when we talked about safety, when we talked about how to do when you go to the range, how do you when your range methodology, that's when we talked about the range methodology and what do you do when you go to the range when you put one round in, then two, then three, then five or whatever. This is why you do that, because if your engagement is incorrect, you could have a double fire or a multi-feed. So you want to make sure.
This also falls in line here with the drop test as well.
Yep.
And I can tell you a surefire way you know that you can end up with a double feed or a full auto fire is you cock your slide back. You obviously make sure that your firearm is void of any ammo beforehand. Pull the trigger, and while holding your finger on the trigger still, cock the slide again. And as you pull that trigger forward, if it clicks and then your firing pin drops again immediately, you know that you are going to have double fire. You're going to have a simulated auto. It is almost a surefire way to know. It's essentially your trigger isn't going all the way forward, and you're not pulling it back again for that firing pin to drop again. So that's a surefire way for you to tell if you're going to get full auto or a double fire before even going to the range.
Tip. Excellent tip. See, that's an excellent tip, man. That's another bonus tip right there. So definitely that's a way that you can tell. So one bonus tip, you want to have the proper armorer's back plate to check your sear engagement or your cruciform and trigger pin lug. Firing pin lug. I said trigger pin. So anyway, so these are the different back plates that you can get. The red one on the top is the slim frame. If you don't know, the G42, 43, 43X, and 48 are Gen 5 frames, but they're slim. So they use a different back plate. They have red one. If anybody needs a red one, let me know. We'll hook you up. We'll get you straight. The orange one is and those are both OEM armor back plates from Glock. If you look down a little further, you got the LWD, the Lone Wolf, and Ghost Ink also makes a see-through. That's the only difference between that and the orange one is that you can see through it. Okay. And if you look on the right-hand side, that's a picture of Copperhead with the Lone Wolf armorer's plate. And I have almost full engagement on Copperhead, which works great. Never had a problem. And looks like my slide might need a new coat of paint. But you can see through the armorer's plate. Yeah, it's not really clear, but I mean, at least you can see through. Shine a flashlight in there, you might be able to see something. But a tip, if you have extra back plates, if you do custom back plates and you have all of these extra back plates that that you have lying around, just cut one in half. You can cut it in half. Cut it right across the top of that square. If you look at the square, let's rewrite.
Or the OEM backplate still
Right
have a metal piece in it.
Yeah, that's why you cut below it.
Cut it. Yep, cut right below the
cut
metal
just
piece.
below it. Yeah, that's an OEM backplate right there in that picture, and you see the silver on the left and the right, the same as you see on the orange and the red one. Just cut right below that aluminum plate that's back there, and they put that because they say that, you know, the firing pin, if you just use all polymer backplate, the firing pin can come through there. If that polymer can shatter, that's why it's infused with a metal plate back there. So just in case you didn't know that, that's a little trivia for those that don't know. If you are using aftermarket back plates and they don't have a piece of metal inside of it, change it, guys. I don't care how cool it looks. You could, if you just realize that firearm is right in front of your face. You know, it's at arm's distance, but it's in front of your face. Think about how fast that bullet comes out the front. How fast can that pin come out the back?
All of the pressure that builds up in that chamber,
and it's going to come right at your forehead. It could kill you instantly. So that's another bonus tip. So bonus tip number 2, make sure this is correct and you are at the range with the gun pointed in a safe direction before introducing live ammunition to the gun. We say it time in and time out, but guys, people get killed every day for not listening. Okay. If you look at the picture here, it shows 3/3. That top left picture number 197 is 3/3 engagement. The one on the right is 2/3 engagement. The one on the left, less than 2/3 engagement. It's not even 1/3. That is a recipe for danger because that's going to slip off every time, and that's where you get your double fires. When that slips off, it doesn't have good enough engagement. You pull that trigger, it doesn't reset properly. And it just keeps pulling. It just keeps snapping back every time because that engagement is not right. So definitely want to get 3/3 or 2/3 engagement. Now here's the thing. If you put the trigger bar in there and you have less than 2/3, do not. I'm gonna say it again. Do not try to bend the cruciform. Please do not try to bend the cruciform. I don't care if it's last straw or not. I'm putting the gun down and I'm waiting to find a OEM trigger bar. Just don't do it because you're going to cause yourself more problems than you'll fix. Dude, why are you sitting in the dark?
And if you do end up using a aftermarket trigger bar and you experience that, another option that you have is to contact the company, have them send you a new one. Shit happens. It could have been a bad one of the batch, you know, whatever the case may be. If you're really partial to that trigger bar, say you're running a full, custom setup and you want to run that whole company's whole shebang, their connector, their trigger springs, all that stuff, contact them. Say, hey, I'm having an issue with my trigger bar. They might say, hey, you know what? We just put out a new batch. We'll send you a new one. Send us the old one back. We got you. Before you go online and start bitching about it, or, before you freak out and panic and start ordering, other trigger bars or switching parts around, contact them first.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, guys, that's it, man. I mean, it's just that simple. Those are the top 5. Of course, there are a lot more things we could talk about. People having problems operational wise when building a firearm. Who knows? If you guys have some suggestions, we'll come up with a part 2. So
yeah, I will add to. It might seem cool to get the double fire or to get a simulated full auto. Some people might look at that and go, "Oh, I lucked out." Yeah, it might be fine the first couple of magazines that you pump out that thing. You might be just okay. But we've seen legit video. I think it's still online somewhere. It was a member of the old forum that had a simulated full auto incident with one of his firearms where the cruciform wasn't engaged correctly, and the whole firearm snapped in half because it's not meant to handle that.
Yep.
The issue is it's it's slamming into the rounds, it's spitting them out faster than it can go. And what ends up happening is you get rounds that don't end up fully seating before they're struck with the firing pin. And then all of a sudden they're ejected again. It's not meant to handle that type of stress. It's going to eventually snap.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you just don't want to do it, plain and simple. So,
and funny enough, they were pissed off, and P80s are shit, and I'm never building again. Fuck these things, and blah 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 blah. So he handled his mistake really well.
Yeah, it's never the gun. It's never the person fault that built it. It's always the gun fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know, man. They just, some people just, there just isn't any help for them. But we can hope that we're the help for them. We hope that they go to the forum, they join us, they learn a little something, and you know, everybody's here for a reason. Everybody's here to help everybody. Everybody's here to ask for help. I mean, we got some of the best builders that I know in our forum, and they still have questions. And that's okay, because I don't know everything. They don't know everything. None of us know everything, but we can find out together. We can find out, it just is what it is. There's no lifeguards at the gene pool. No, there sure isn't. So guys, we definitely gonna shut it down. It's been exactly 1 hour and 1 minute since we started. Again, I apologize for the tardiness, guys, but maybe next week I'll get everything test fired on Monday, so I know that my files are too much. I didn't know that the files had a size limit. So anyway, worked out pretty good. We got it done. I couldn't see half the things you guys were doing. So, you could have been putting up middle fingers saying F RAM. I wouldn't have known because I couldn't see the screen.
Shh, guys, I won't tell them. What?
What'd you say? Common sense, decency, courtesy. Yeah. But yeah, so we are going to shut this down. If anyone has any questions before we go, let me know. Anybody got any questions for me? Anybody got any questions they want to ask? I don't think so, because everybody here absolutely knows these things. But if you're just watching for the first time, I hope you learned something. I hope that we helped you. Now, and please don't let these things scare you away, because these are really, really simple things. They're just very, very important. And they are mistakes that people make. They're very simple to fix and very simple to learn. So don't let this scare you away from building, because we need more people building. We need more people exercising their Second Amendment right. We need people exercising their right to build their own firearms, because they are slowly but surely chipping away at our rights to do this. There are so many. I mean, this community used to be unified and strong and huge, and it's fragmented from a few people doing the wrong thing, or a few people being targeted and having to go to to sequester themselves, or they're trying to target the leaders. So guys, real quick, I'm going to Iowa for GunCon. If anybody's close to Iowa, close to Brownells, come out, see me at GunCon on the 23rd and 24th for the industry days. That's going to be fun. Be hanging out with John Patton and Guns and Gadgets and all you have, Mr. Guns and Gear, and all these guys that you see on YouTube. I'm going to get a chance to meet and hang out with them, and I'm going to bring back as much information that I can get out of them that they can't say on screen. I'm going to try and bring them back so I can share with you guys in the forum. I'm going to be taking pictures. I will hopefully be broadcasting live from out there. But guys, good night. We love you. We definitely appreciate you being here. Absolutely. And I am going to shut up at this point. Because show's over. So, Weapon, you got anything before we go, dude?
Nope.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to you later. Hit us up in the DMs on the forum or anywhere else. Oh, shoot. Yeah, well, you know what? I'll post it up in the forum because it's too late to get into it now. So we'll talk to you guys later. Deuces.
Deuce.